Welcome back to the Escape Podcast, your source for all terrible things in the world of podcasts.
Yes. So, Dave, what are we doing today?
Today, we are going to be doing Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Beats juicy?
Beetlejuice. Beats juicy. Oh, yes. Beetlejuice, as in the juice of a beetle?
Okay, don't say
know.
it any more times. I think, 3 is the limit.
3 is the limit,
right.
Yes. Yes. So, have you seen the movie? Because I have.
I have seen this. It has been probably 15, maybe even more years since I've seen this movie. It's not one I watched a lot, but I know I saw it when I was a kid, and I probably saw it again maybe when I was like in my early 20s.
So maybe you've seen the movie 2 or 3 times in your whole life at most. Interesting.
I do remember the cartoon a little more, but
yeah. The cartoon was great. Yeah, so I used to watch this movie regularly. I remember when when I was a kid, we got a copy of it from our local Meyer movie rental place. They sold movies there too. So we got the movie home, we started watching it, and I fell in love with it. And I was only like 4 or 5.
Now, was this a heavily edited mom and dad edition?
Yes. So yeah, anytime there were
don't spoil anything for me
or whatever.
Well,
anytime there was a curse word or something, you would hear the Weather Channel come in and be like, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I loved the movie, and I also loved the cartoon that came out. And
would you consider yourself a Tim Burton fan in general?
Oh, okay. Yes. I love his stuff.
And I find I'm not really a Tim Burton fan.
Okay, yeah. I think this might be Danny Elfman's best score, maybe. Kind of up there with Batman.
All dressed up with nowhere to go. Walking with a dead man over my shoulder. It's a good song.
The band Danny Elfman was in.
Boingo, boingo.
Yep, there it is. So, Josh.
Yeah, what?
So, Josh, tell me what you remember about this movie.
Okay. The things I do remember, I knew that obviously it's Michael Keaton. I remember Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, and Winona Ryder, and I believe Catherine O'Hara is in this, correct? Kevin McAllister's mom from Home Alone.
Yes.
So I remember those people. I know there's something, I don't know why exactly, but I remember that like he can't say his own name. He has to get someone else to say it, and they have to say it 3 times. But I can't remember the reasoning behind why he can't say his own name and why it takes 3 times. I remember something like there's like a mock-up of a town, like a model or something like that. And he's like in it. He's really small or something. I remember something about like I don't know if they call them sandworms or something, but they're kind of like striped, like zebra striped dune worms, but they look different. And I remember like at one point he turns into a snake, but he's got like a huge head and huge eyes.
Right. Yeah.
There's something like where they're singing the daylight come and we want to go home or something like that.
Yeah.
What else do I remember?
That's in there too.
I remember something where like Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, they like morph their faces to be more grotesque to like, I guess, fit in to like the underworld or whatever or something.
Yes.
And I remember something about like a witch doctor or some kind of voodoo guy who like shrinks heads or something.
Yeah.
And I know it's like where he's the villain, right? But it's almost like,
I believe that is technically true,
he's the villain of the film, but like probably more because of the cartoon. He almost is like, what would that be considered, the anti-hero? Where it's like, yeah, he's technically bad, but like he's a likable villain or something. I don't know.
I would accept that, yes.
I think those are the key things I remember. I remember Winona Ryder, she's like floating around at the end, something like above a staircase or something.
Yes.
And that's mostly what I remember.
Yeah, I think you remember, the aspects of the movie that would stand out in most people's minds.
But like I can't remember, and obviously I'm not wanting you to tell me. I can't remember, was he once a living person who died? Or is he like just some kind of weird like Gozer entity where he can like take on different forms? Because obviously there's his regular like look, and then there's where he obviously turns into a snake. So I don't know if it's like he's some kind of shape-shifting entity or if he was a guy that died. I don't remember his story.
Right. Hmm.
And I did watch
Okay.
the cartoon a little bit. It was not one of my favorites. I think, again, I know I say this all the time. I think it was one of those cartoons I watched because I knew the cartoon that came on after it was one that I wanted to see.
Right.
There's so much noise behind you. You guys tearing down the walls?
It sounds like they are.
Anyway, but yeah, so that's about all I remember. I remember like just little elements of it, but
yeah.
So
yeah, and the cartoon, the big thing I remember about the cartoon, not only do I remember watching it regularly, but also I remember the toys.
Oh.
Because I don't know if there were toys that came out as a part of the movie, but there were definitely toys that came from as a result of the cartoon being out there.
I don't remember that offhand.
And I had the toys.
It's kind of funny to me that your parents would let you.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, like
I think they just saw it as
death
this harmless
and
thing
the afterlife
yeah.
and voodoo people and just all this kind of, I don't know, stuff. It just kind of surprises me.
Oh yeah, but again, obviously the movie spawned a cartoon for kids.
Right, but didn't a lot of that kind of stuff kind of carry over?
But that means that there were kids that loved the movie so much that it demanded a cartoon be made about it.
The only episode I really remember about the cartoon was it was like an Indiana Jones reference.
Oh yeah, they made a lot of references.
He was going by Indiana Bones.
Yeah,
but anytime he said Indiana Bones, like a boulder or something would come out of nowhere and like smash him. So like through the whole episode, I remember he was
that
like,
episode. I forgot about that one.
He was trying to like say the name without getting that to happen. So like, he would whisper it, but then still something would happen. I remember one point he goes, "I'm Indiana," and then he writes in the dirt Bones, and still something comes and hits him.
Dude, I totally forgot about that one. Yes, I remember that specific episode. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good.
All right. Well, before we come back with the full review, let me remind people you can write us at escapepodcast16@gmail.com. Dave, where can they get us on Instagram?
The Escape Podcast 16.
True dat. And you can find all our old episodes on YouTube by searching the Escape Podcast movie reviews and nonsense. I know that's a lot to have to write, but unfortunately there are a million variations of the Escape Podcast out there.
We are just another pod in the cast.
That escaped.
Yeah.
Of course, you can find us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and 1,000 others.
And all that good stuff.
Word. All right, Dave, let's go and then come back.
And all I'm going to say right now is, it's showtime.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That's his catchphrase, right? Was that more for the cartoon, though, right?
It's in both.
Okay. All right.
From the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Adam and Barbara are
ghosts. What's the good of being a ghost if you can't frighten people away?
Their house is being haunted by the living.
Maybe the house could use a little remodeling.
And they can't scare them into leaving.
They're dead. It's a little late to be neurotic.
So they're calling on Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice!
Who's no ordinary ghost.
You don't want his help.
Can you be scary?
What do you think of this?
Now, the party's over.
You want somebody out of the house? I want to get somebody out of your house.
But the fun has just begun.
It's showtime. Learn to throw your voice, fool your friends, fun and party.
Not bad.
This is amazing.
You want a cigarette?
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, yeah, here I come, baby.
He's guaranteed to put some life.
Attention, keyboard shoppers.
In your afterlife. Michael Keaton is Beetlejuice.
I'm the ghost with the most, babe.
Well, we're back. So how was it? Did you like it? What came back?
Whoa. Hold
What
your
didn't
horses
come
there,
back to
buddy
you?
boy. hold on. I have some production note trivia to go for first before we get into that.
Okay then. Yep. Sorry, not trying to put the cart before the horse here.
Oh, you did.
Go on.
All
Go
right.
on with your bad self.
Beetlejuice was directed by Tim Burton and it was released in 1988. It was made on a budget of $15 million and made a box office of $73 million, becoming the 10th highest grossing film of 1988. It has a 85% critical score and an 82% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It stars Michael Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Jeffrey Jones, Catherine O'Hara, and Winona Ryder. Tim Burton wanted Sammy Davis Jr., his favorite childhood star, to play the title role. It is said that Michael Keaton ad-libbed about 90% of his lines. Beetlejuice doesn't appear until about 25 minutes into the film and only has about 14 minutes of screen time total. Michael Keaton only did about 2 weeks of filming. The film was set in Connecticut but actually filmed in Vermont. Aside from Gina Davis, all the cast members turned down the film before finally signing on. The final scene with Beetlejuice in the waiting room was added in post-production. The special effects budget was only $1 million, so most of the effects were done purposely cheap to help save cost. The Lydia character died in the original script. And finally, the name Beetlejuice is said 15 times throughout the film.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some interesting facts there.
I've heard better.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, for the longest time, I kind of wondered about the house, you know.
Okay.
I always kind of wondered if this was like a real house or if they built the house just for the movie or, you know, what the deal was.
Yeah, I think the...
Because if it's real, I always wanted to go to it, but I was so disappointed.
I think the outside of the house is a real house, but the inside was a set, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I actually think I read somewhere that the house was built just for the movie, and then the interior shots were filmed on a soundstage.
Oh, and see, and I thought I read that they scoured around to find the perfect house, which made me think it already existed, but I don't know. I mean, there's definitely, they did that add-on with that weird porch
the weird,
or whatever you want to call it. Like
all the
one
Art
wall.
Deco stuff they added on the outside, yeah.
Well, where it had like one wall, but it was like an outdoor porch patio type of thing with one wall. It was just really strange.
Yes, it is very. I guess for the '80s, it was a modern take on, you know, our modern architecture, whatever, you know. So
I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just assuming, but yeah. So this movie for me had a, you know, pretty big impact on my life. I just was a huge fan. I remember this thing came out. I was about 4 or 5, somewhere in there, and we got a copy of it on VHS, and I just played that thing probably.
Wait, you were watching this at like 4 and 5?
Oh yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just I was such a big fan. I may have mentioned this in the intro, but I just want to, you know, reiterate the fact that I was a huge fan of this thing as a kid, and that was before the cartoon was even a thing. You know, when the cartoon came out, I was like, oh yes, even more Beetlejuice content. So
I believe I read that the cartoon came out a year later.
Was it a year? I thought it was more than that.
I thought that's what I read.
I can't remember. It sounds legit, yeah. But
let's just say it is.
Okay,
it's fact.
Let's go with it.
Fact.
That's if it wasn't
everything
true,
I say is fact.
If it wasn't true before, it is true now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the cartoon, I remember specifically there were
it had the voice of Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I said it, so it's true now.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger had the voice.
Totally did. Yep. Yeah, Schwarzenegger.
He did like every voice.
Yep, all the voices.
Yeah,
all him.
Yeah,
all okay. Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Continue on.
No, you're good. So, but there was a series of Burger King kids meal toys that came out as a result of the cartoon.
Okay.
And I remember getting those. I remember getting before that. But I was going to say before that there were toys just from the movie prior to the cartoon.
It's weird to me that this movie, which has some adult content, would be so geared toward children.
Yeah, it is. It was a little weird. I think they were maybe trying to figure out the demographics of it as they went. Maybe I don't know. And that I'll talk about that a little more towards the end when we give our grade for the movie about some of those more adult themed
Yeah, I mean, this movie was
elements.
PG. Now, I know that PG-13 didn't come till wasn't like I thought it was like the mid '80s or something, right?
I think it might even been around the late '80s, like maybe '88 or '89.
Mm,
Not sure.
okay, because this definitely isn't a a PG movie.
Yeah, this if this movie came out today, it would definitely be PG-13. It would not get a PG rating because of
Okay, I just looked it up real quick. According to this, in July of 1984 is when the Motion Picture Association of America implemented the PG-13 rating.
Interesting.
So I don't know
Okay.
why this movie coming out in '88 would still be PG, but anyway.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Continue.
So anyway, there was back to the toys. There was this one action figure, Beetlejuice action figure. It came with like its own, I think it was a grave, like a plastic grave, and you would like put Beetlejuice in it and you would pull it out and like something would change about it. I don't exactly remember.
Okay.
And also its head popped off and there was a shrunken head underneath the normal sized head.
Yeah,
And,
I was reading that the toy line had different versions of Beetlejuice. They also included the Jungle Explorer guy, and you could switch his head from a
yes.
normal size head to the shrunken head.
Yeah, so I had that one, and also one. There was one day when I took that toy and I buried it in my front yard of my house because I really wanted like ultra realistic playtime. So I wanted to bury my Beetlejuice in the dirt. And I think it was about 5 minutes later after I buried him that I could not find where I buried it.
Really?
And I lost it forever from that point on. I probably went days and weeks.
You couldn't just find the part
Continually.
that had no grass?
No, I mean, because I buried it in an area of our yard that was not covered with grass. It was all just plain dirt. So, and my dad had given me the okay to dig around in this area where there was no grass anyway. And so I buried this Beetlejuice action figure, covered it up, made sure it looked like, just nothing. And it looked like all the other dirt, but I just didn't mark it or whatever. And so days and weeks, I would keep going out there looking for this thing. Never found it ever again.
Wow.
Very sad. And if I think, I'm not exactly sure if this is true, but I think maybe about, I don't know, let's see, maybe about 10 years later after this happened, I was out there as a much older person cutting the lawn or something. And I looked down and I saw this little piece of plastic on the ground. And it looked like the shrunken head Beetlejuice head was just on the ground, not with the rest of the toy.
Just the head?
Just the head. And so I was like, man.
Did you keep it?
Finally, I you know what? I don't know. I think I just lost the...
Or did you just buried it again?
If I did take it, I probably lost it again. I don't remember.
Right.
It was, even at this point, that would have been over 20 years ago. But still, it was... it's a very vague memory. And so, yeah, it makes me sad that I did that. But, these toys must be pretty valuable, pretty worth something, and also pretty rare because I don't think I've even ever seen any like for sale in like a comic book shop. You know how they have like retro toy sections and places like that. I've never really seen any Beetlejuice stuff. So, but I know there was a resurgence of toys and merchandise in the recent years because I think Hot Topic re-released some toys or reissued some new toys maybe, and they had this kind of like a fake book of the book of the what is it called?
What was the title of that book? The book for the recently deceased or something?
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly what the title is.
Yeah.
All right, back to the film.
Yeah, so not to go on a merchandise tangent here, but so it's funny because when you think about how Adam and Barbara died in the movie, it's kind of silly. Like their car, they're just driving through their town, and the car goes up on the bridge and crashes through the side of the bridge. But then the only thing holding the car initially is the weight of that tiny dog on
The
the plank.
counterbalance. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as soon as the dog jumps off,
I
oh,
just thought it was
that
funny how obsessive he was with this model.
yeah.
Uh,
Tell me about that. What did you think of that?
I mean, I have no problems with, models, and that could be really cool. It was just funny how obsessive he was. I mean, I guess I've been, like that about things too. It was
Yeah.
just, yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of funny to me. All the,
Yeah, I totally get it because even as a fan of Beetlejuice, guess what happened? As a kid, I naturally became a little obsessed with models for
okay.
like maybe a year or two. I would constantly be trying to build models of this kind,
Landscape
like
or,
landscape models
okay.
of houses and things, and like I'd be like putting them together in with like construction paper and glue and tape, and I would make my own model. And me and my brother Daniel, we would
Hmm.
get together and we would try to build this because we both loved this movie,
Hmm.
and so we would try to build this model town out of paper and whatever. Or
I didn't
sometimes
know
we
you did
would
those
just,
kinds of models.
yeah, or
Uh,
sometimes we would just build the house, the main
okay.
house, out of paper,
I knew
just as
you
a,
did like Star Trek ship models and
yeah, I did cars
Back to the
and
Future, the car DeLorean car, but I didn't know you
yeah.
did like landscape models.
Well, no, I really wouldn't say I did them.
Oh, okay. Well,
I liked them for like a year or two,
oh, okay.
and then as I got, as I got older, I didn't really get into it
You said
anymore. But
you thought they're lame
well, what happened, what killed my love for
because they
models
were
of
whack.
towns like this was one year for Christmas, my dad bought me an actual legit made out of wood model set, and I had it for a long time, and but I just didn't I didn't like the fact that it took so much work
Hmm.
to have. Like all it was it was like a box with some pre-built like wood and like houses and things, but you had to build it all yourself. You had to paint it. It was like a real thing,
Like
and I was
work.
like,
Ugh.
it was like work, and I was like, man,
Ugh.
not really.
Ugh.
So that was what killed my
I
my love
already have
for
to take out the
models.
trash and put away my laundry. this, this model's work, man. I'm not doing that.
Man, no one wants to hire you unless you're willing to work 40 hours a week.
Anyway, all
uh,
right. Let's wind it back in here.
yeah, I keep going off tangents here.
I'm not blaming you.
So yeah,
I'm going with you.
but anyway, back to the house itself. It's kind of funny because it does kind of look like on the outside some kind of historically significant house. Like it looks legit real. Like if you look at some of the close-ups when they come out of the house in the beginning of the movie and they're getting into their car, you see some of the details of like the big brick foundation, and I really thought that this house was like must be real, but
Anyway, yeah, the intro was really interesting because you're almost getting the impression that it's like a fly view of this area,
yep.
and eventually there was one of the trucks I thought looked a little odd, and obviously then there's the reveal with the spider on the house that
So
it's a miniature.
yeah, so here's the thing you may not know. Maybe you do,
Laid on me.
maybe you do know, maybe you don't. I don't know. Sounds
I know a lot of stuff, and what I don't know, I make into fact.
sounds like you might not know this, but the intro of
Okay,
this movie was filmed over a real town, and then
they
for
blended it.
like the last 5 seconds or whatever, they blend it into the
Oh,
model. And then like
I did not know that.
if you know to look for it, you'll see it, but if you're not looking for it, you won't notice it until the spider. But
Well, then I'm not complimenting them anymore on doing a tremendous
yeah,
job with that
yeah, like
because
yeah, so
they
like
faked
it
it. What
literally
fakers?
it is it's a like it's filmed over a real town in whatever
Okay.
Vermont or whatever they filmed this in, but then right as they get to that, last hillside with
Hmm.
like the and you can see like the
Well,
colors
good
again.
job on the blend then.
Yeah, it's really good, really well done. As a matter of fact, speaking of that, the special effects in this movie, I mean, considering that it is, 1987 when they filmed it, 88 when it was released, it is, even though it's all a lot of stop motion, claymation, and maybe even a little bit of rotoscoping, it's done really well, I think.
Well, I think that was also part of the budget saving techniques
Yes.
by doing cheaper, older effects. I think he was trying to keep it, you know, make that $1 million go, the distance.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder what that would be equivalent to in like today's movie making budgets.
1,000,005 cents.
5 cents.
I did the numbers.
I did the math. All right. Well, so let's talk about the music of the movie. Danny Elfman.
There's music in this movie?
Oh yes. Yes.
Are you sure? I don't remember hearing any music.
Oh yes. Yes,
Okay.
there.
Yes, Danny Elfman.
Yes, Danny Elfman was the guy who made the music for this movie, and it's probably my favorite Danny Elfman score. And it's hard for me to say which I like better, this or Batman, but most of the time, if you ask me this question, I'll say it's this movie.
Really?
Yeah, I really like.
What about Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, I mean, it's good. It's definitely in the top 10 Danny Elfman scores that I've ever had, but that I've ever heard, rather. But this one, it's so good. And not only is it good, but I think it's actually the kind of score that you might hear like a school marching band do at like a football game or something.
Interesting, because I don't feel like I noted the score really stood out to me that much. Like,
maybe I'm just
I can't
biased
even.
'cause
What
I
is
grew
the
up
score?
with it?
Is this the do 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 or something? How does the score go? I don't even know. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's lots of like cool violin work in the underground
Mhm.
scenes when he's like reading the newspaper, and I mean it's like high quality music. I mean,
Mm.
it's just so
Okay.
good. And it's funny, I recently read somewhere about Danny Elfman, how he talked about his transition from being an Oingo Boingo to being a film
I think that's
score.
Boingo Oingo.
What?
Get your facts
Are
straight.
you sure?
No,
Anyway,
I'm just messing around.
yeah.
You
So
had it. Go ahead.
he talked about how his transition from being in a band to being a film score guy, and how he said at some point when he was doing the transition, he just knew that in his heart, not that there was anything bad going on with his band, he just knew he didn't want to do it anymore, and that he wanted to be a film score guy, and something to that effect. There were no bad things that happened to end the band that he was in. He just made the transition because he just felt like he needed to, and so the rest is history. He went on to make a ton of great music as a film guy. So,
okay, like I'm assuming he's done pretty much every Tim Burton movie, right?
you know what?
Pretty much.
Probably. I don't know if it's
Most
every, but probably.
Yeah, well, most.
Yeah.
And obviously I know he did Spider-Man, which wasn't Tim Burton.
Right.
What else has he done besides Tim Burton?
Yeah,
things?
so it's funny. There's been a ton of films that Tim Burton did and Danny Elfman did together. But there's been, I think, more movies that Danny Elfman did as the score provider that wasn't directed by Tim. Like, for instance, Spider-Man 2.
I see you and Mr. Burton are on a first name basis.
Did I say Tim?
Well, you kept saying it like what he did for Tim, and I know there's some movies he didn't do with Tim. Just like
wasn't even thinking
like
about
you
it.
know him. I'm just
me and old TB.
See, I'm very. I haven't met him that many times, so I still call him Mr. Burton.
I'm so sick of meeting him. So, happens all the time. Just kidding.
And Mr. Boingo.
Mr. Boingo.
All right.
Right. Anyway, yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, there's been a lot of Tim Burton movies with Danny Elfman. There's been a lot of movies out there that weren't directed by Tim Burton, but Danny Elfman did anyway.
Nice save there,
but
by the way.
I don't know if there's been a lot of the other way around,
Yeah, I don't know either. So there's a lot of rules to this film that, I mean, I guess it's not that kind of film, so like it's kind of silly of me to almost even bring this up, but there's a lot of rules within the film that are really unexplained. Like, why are they
Yes.
like chained to the house? Like they can't leave the house even though they didn't die at the house.
Yeah.
You know, they drowned, so they were wet when they first got back, but yet everyone else later in the film that they meet, it seems they are in the condition that they were when they died. You know, someone, clearly got ran over by a truck or something, so he's a flat pancake,
Handbook for the
the
recently deceased.
okay.
That was what it just came back to me.
Um,
And then he
you
said
know,
diseased. Okay, sorry, go on.
The it looked like a magician's assistant got sawed in half, but she actually got sawed in half, so she's in two different pieces. So there's a lot of
I love
the
waiting
one
room.
lady, the one lady has her neck cut open. Like I don't know what happened to her,
Yes.
but it seems like basically they are left in the condition that they died in.
Right. Like the one guy was burned because he was smoking, and
Right. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
all
And
black ashy.
so in theory, they should be soaking wet the whole time.
Right.
Now I understand from a film point of view why they wouldn't do that. That would be just ridiculous to have to constantly hose down your two leads
Correct.
for every scene. That would be, they probably get sick, and it just, I don't know. So I get it, but there's just weird rules that they don't seem to stick with or explain. Like, okay, Beetlejuice himself, he can't say his own name. Why? Why
Yeah.
does it take 3 times of saying his name to, give him reign over whatever he's doing?
Yeah. Why does it take?
I was at least hoping they would explain that one. I kind of wanted to know, like, why is that?
I always had the impression that the whole saying his name 3 times, the fact that he can't say it himself, was kind of like a weird Tim Burton, like, dark take on the whole Rumpelstiltskin thing. It's kind of like the Rumpelstiltskin of the afterlife kind of thing. I don't know. Or
Okay.
Mixel-Piddleick or whatever from the DC Comics. And so
I don't know. You lost me on that one. I don't know what that is.
it's like a DC Comics version also of the same idea of Rumpelstiltskin. So
he was a living person at one point. He was a guy.
Was he, though?
He's not some.
I don't know. Like
I mean,
I don't know.
See, I wasn't sure if he was like supposed to be the ghost or something of someone that was once alive, or if he was some kind of weird afterlife entity, kind of like Gozer, as I talked about.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he said something like, I haven't, it's been 500 years since I, did this or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, so they do talk about his history a little bit when they meet Juno, the caseworker, in the afterlife, and Juno is telling Adam and Barbara about Beetlejuice. And at first they think it's pronounced Beetlegeist or whatever because of the way.
Well, and I was reading, I thought they said that his name was actually Beetlegeist.
Yeah, and this goes to show you there's even more questions. Like, his name's Beetlejuice, but is his name also Beetlegeist? What is up with that? Like, I don't know. But anyway,
because in the commercial, doesn't he pronounce the commercial that he shows them? Doesn't he pronounce his name as Beetlegeist?
Oh, maybe he says it because he can't say the real name himself. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, they were talking about his history and how Juno said that he used to be, I think, an assistant or something to her in the job that she does in the afterlife, and he kind of went off and did his own thing and then became a nuisance, and then was I don't know if he was like shunned or banned from working in that area of the afterlife, and now he does his own thing and causes trouble and wreaks havoc.
And why was he like stuck in the miniature, the model? Like, I didn't get that either.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, I assumed he would be somewhere in this other realm, but for some reason he's like in the model.
So many questions. So many questions.
And again, I know it's not that type of movie, and it's just making way too much of it to, nitpick and dissect. But
no, I get it.
My mind just goes there.
Yeah, like another good question would be, why does drawing a door on a brick wall with a piece of chalk and then knocking on it 3 times do anything? But it's just in the handbook for the recently deceased. So, and by the way, I used to do that, and I actually still do that when I'm playing with my kids or whatever. If we have sidewalk chalk and there's a brick wall nearby, I just draw a door and then knock 3 times. And I think only one of my kids have seen it, so they only one gets it, but like
Oh,
it's
okay.
just something I've always done my whole life because of this movie. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just a thing. Anyway, so the theme of this movie, I guess I would say there's probably like a few different themes to this movie. There's the fact that I mean, death is kind of a big theme, so I get a big part of this movie. So the idea that life is precious, life is short, is kind of a theme to me, and the fact that things change. No matter what happens in life, things change.
Mhm.
Those are the themes that jump out to me. Did you have any ideas about movie themes?
I mean, what I found interesting is if you think about it this way, okay, when they were alive, that was like their little dream house, and like they loved this house.
Yeah,
He loved working upstairs and working on his model.
he didn't want to sell.
You know,
Neither of them wanted to sell it.
yeah. Basically, they loved this house. This house was their castle. And it seemed like they almost went to town just to grocery shop, and he picked up a few more things for his model. What's interesting about it is when they die, they actually become bound to the house. They can't leave it. They can't go outside of the house.
For whatever
I don't
reason.
know. I think, but it's just kind of interesting here. At one time, it was like the thing where they wanted to be, and they didn't want to be anywhere else. And then after they die, it becomes where they can't be anywhere
Now
else.
they're trapped in.
And at
Oh
one
my
point,
gosh, I never thought about that.
he kind of says, she says,
Huh.
"Are we in hell?" And or something. And then she says something about, how we can't leave the house. He goes, "Well, this is heaven then," because that's where he wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of viewed it as not so bad until the new house owners came.
I like the quote where he says, she says, "Are we in heaven? Are we in hell?" And then Adam says, "This book doesn't really mention anything about heaven or hell. It reads like stereo instructions or something like that." Yeah. So, and they even kind of touch on like the idea of reincarnation being mentioned in this book.
Do they?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Manifestation to manifestation was the way they put it. So to me, that kind of sounds like reincarnation.
Oh, I didn't catch that then.
Yeah. So those are the themes, I guess. Then
okay. Now the one time they do go outside the house and they end up on, Tatooine.
Actually,
with the Guardian of Forever in the background.
I don't know if
Guardians of Forever.
I don't know.
And then you have those sandworms.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught this or not, but I think they even mentioned that this was supposed to be Saturn.
Yes, I did.
You did?
I wrote that down. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I'll show you later. Beetlejuice says something about Saturn, and I actually have that. Yeah, written down here. Did they say something about sandworms being on Saturn? So for some reason, if that is the case, they step out of the house and they're transported to another planet.
Right.
Really weird.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that Saturn has no land. It's all a big gas giant. And that's what I always thought was kind of interesting. But, that's just,
I don't know.
That's my dork side coming out.
But
kind of what makes me wonder if maybe when this movie was made, did they know Saturn was a gas giant? Maybe that wasn't.
Or maybe it was just, ad-libbed because they said he ad-libbed a lot of stuff. So maybe he just quickly threw out a planet.
Yeah.
And, just wasn't thinking about, whatever.
The fact that Saturn's yellow and the sand in that place where they go is yellow sand all over.
And again, this movie's not the type to... Again, we're really thinking hard about it. I don't think
to the rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
Remember when Barbara came out of there and she had the yellow sand all over her clothes and she says, "Oh, I'm all yellow."
Kinda, yeah.
It's just, there's a lot of random things like that in this movie.
Yeah. Because what's funny is, like, I know, like, in Dune, there's the big sandworms.
Which Dune?
That's... Well, the original Dune has it.
I haven't seen
the
new
version
one yet.
has it. Okay, yeah, there's these giant worms.
Probably, I don't think I've even seen the original either, honestly.
Oh, good luck if you do.
Okay.
Good luck. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I tried. Oh, did I try to watch that?
Oh, the original Dune?
The 84
I've heard it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, it's weird, but I don't want to get too sidetracked.
Yeah,
but good luck.
Back to Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's weird stuff like that. Like, again, kind of ties back to what we were saying about the rules of the film.
Right.
why can't they go outside? Yet they also feel pain. I noticed what was it? Something happens to her where Gina Davis, where she's like, ouch, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
just,
yeah,
usually,
yeah. It's when
but
she
they
had
can
her
also
hand on
pick
the
stuff up.
fire.
Yeah. And, they can pick stuff up, but then at first they made it out like only Lydia could see them. But then later it seems like everyone can see them.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. So by the end of the movie, everyone see them? I think maybe I don't know, but
yeah.
they I thought it was odd in the movie how they were trying to figure out how to haunt the living as ghosts, and they were trying out things like
If you
bed
can pick
sheets.
up things, it seems pretty easy.
Yeah,
Even if they can't see you, it's
you
totally
can if
easy.
you can pick up objects like that wooden horse or whatever in the house and just float
Yeah.
it around, or put a bed sheet on your head with holes cut for the eye holes. I mean,
Yeah. Why
you
wouldn't
can
they go
interact
into
with
the
physical
room?
objects.
They didn't go into the room. They stood out in the hall. Why wouldn't they go into the actual room to do it? And here's another thing I thought was weird. When
Down the rabbit hole we go.
yeah, when they were up in the model room and the family finally decides to go up into the attic,
Yeah.
they hide.
Yeah, they
But
go
if
out the
they can't
window.
see you anyway, what are you worried about?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's weird inconsistencies, but again, it doesn't have to make
Another
sense.
thing that doesn't make sense, if they are invisible, what purpose does it serve to contort your face into something scary like they did if they can't be
Right.
seen?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
again, it's for the movie, entertainment value, I guess, or whatever. But I thought that whole sequence of them stretching their faces out and is
Yeah,
so
it was funny
good.
to me how quickly they learned how to do that. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
right away, like there's a part where she like has his severed head and
yeah.
they walk in the room, but of course
She's holding
they
a
can't
knife,
see
by the
them.
way.
Yeah, she's holding a knife and she's holding his head.
Yeah.
And of course, no one can see them, so it's lost on them.
Or like
How do they know they could do that?
when they go to the caseworker in the afterlife room place, and
Mm-hmm.
they like Barbara stretches her mouth out, and I don't know if you noticed, but like there's like, I don't know, it's like it looks like 100 teeth in that stretched out mouth. Like they're all
Yeah, kind of like an
normal,
alligator.
they look like normal sized human teeth, but there's just like
Were they? See, I
100.
thought they were pointy.
There's just like they look like regular teeth, but they just look like
Oh,
there's tons of them, and it just looks so funny. And she put the eyeballs on the tips of her fingers. Or wait, no, was that
yeah.
Adam that did that? Yeah,
He did that. She put them on the tongue.
she put her eyeballs on her tongue. Adam somehow duplicated his eyes to 10 for each finger. So it's just down the rabbit hole we go. So funny. It's just I honestly wonder what it took to come up with some of the things in this movie, because it is so random. Drugs.
Yeah, I don't know.
What were they on when they came up with the storyboard?
What were they smoking?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just there's a lot of that stuff that makes you wonder, like, what? Almost kind of like, I wonder if a person who's never seen the movie, wonder if they would appreciate the movie as much as people who saw it when it was new did.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I think at that time that this is a very Tim Burton film.
Mm-hmm, yeah, very Tim Burton.
Maybe one of the most Tim Burton-y films of all.
Very Timmy.
And yeah, I mean, now though people have seen so much of that style of his,
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if it would seem like old hat and maybe even just look in their eyes like cheesy or lame, or I don't know.
This was only Tim Burton's, I think, second or third movie. I'm pretty sure the first movie he ever did, big movie, was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and that was 85 or 86, and then this was 88. So I mean, he was still fairly new to the game at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. But it reeks of Tim Burton.
If Tim Burton was a smell, it reeks of it. So that
Yes.
should be. I wonder if they'll come out with like a candle, a Tim Burton scented candle.
Yikes.
Yeah. So anyway.
But yeah, this film definitely seems to have a big following, because so obviously it did well at the time. you still hear a lot of people hold this movie in high regard and talk about it.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely cult status is not the right word, because I think cult status usually applies to a film or a thing that didn't do well initially and has since become popular.
I think that is,
this has just been snowballing.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think it just started off strong, and it's just been popular from the beginning and ever since, and still is. And again, I mentioned earlier there was a resurgence. I'm assuming in its popularity because of all the merchandise that was reissued through places like Hot Topic in the last 5 or 10 years. They started putting out more like shirts and like toys and other things for the movie, So
And now here's a little thing I noticed when they were I don't know what you would call that, doing the ritual that brought Barbara and Adam into their wedding clothes. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You can see the strings
Can you?
holding up Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis.
Oh
Yeah,
man, this
really easily. And then later, when Lydia does her little floating dance by the stairs, there's a few times you can see the strings holding her,
of course,
too.
Yeah, I know it's funny is they that actually I think adds to the enjoyment of this movie, because it does kind of show like, this is they're on a budget, they're probably saving money by not doing this some other way. But also the fact that we have HD now, and things that probably they thought they could get away with back then, now you watch those same movies and you see things that you couldn't see before because of high definition. So yeah.
Now, is this Blu-ray that you let me borrow to watch this, is this remastered or whatever?
I don't think so. I think it might have just been
then shouldn't it look about the same?
It might have just been
if it's just transferred over from VHS or whatever.
No, it wouldn't have been, like the Blu-ray I let you borrow. I think it was just a film transfer, so it came from the same film master that the DVDs would have come back from, but it would have just been clearer because Blu-ray is clearer than standard DVD, obviously. So anyway, yeah,
okay.
And also depends on
I'll take your word for
depends on the clarity of the screen you're watching it on, and all sorts of other variables go into clarity of a film you're watching. So
I don't trust you.
Liar. Yeah. So I would say final thoughts. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I really don't know how else to say it.
What grade does that put you down with then?
I would say an A-. And
A-, okay.
I'm going to say an A- because it's not, I would say that there's just a couple of things in this movie that take away from the fact that it could be an A or an A+. And those,
like what?
Those two main things are the fact that there is an F-bomb dropped in this movie, which I am not a fan of. And then there was a scene in the model where Beetlejuice walks into like a questionable nightclub, gentleman's club, that kind of thing. And, yeah, so those two things have always...
Well, they take God's name in vain.
Have always kind of bothered me.
Toward the beginning.
What's that?
I said they take God's name in vain in the beginning of the film.
I don't recall the specific...
When he goes to buy the pieces for his model and the older man's talking.
Oh, the older
whether
guy
he's there
says
or not.
that? Yeah.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I kind of wonder if that old guy out there was just, improving all his dialogue, because he's like clearly trying to talk to himself and there's no one else listening to him. I don't know. I don't know if they would have scripted that or if he just kind of did it off the cuff. But yeah, I
know not.
Yeah, but like I said, those two things I mentioned earlier have always really bothered me. So
okay, so A- for you.
A-.
Okay, so for me, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum here.
Uh-oh.
Like I said, I saw this movie maybe a handful of times as a kid. I haven't seen it since. I never really felt like I was missing it, wanting to watch it again. So you brought it up somehow, and I had said, yeah, I'll watch it again,
Yeah.
But like, other than that, I really had no reason to watch this. I'm not a fan of Tim Burton.
Okay.
I liked Batman 89 all right.
Yeah.
And I liked it more as a kid. I don't think I like it as much now, but even Batman Returns I didn't like. I don't like that guy. Style. I feel like now, having seen this again at the age I'm at, I could probably go the rest of my life without ever watching it again.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Another thing is, like, I watched half of this movie last week, and it took me till just tonight to finish it up so I could have watched it for this review.
And that was why, because you just had
just really wasn't
to,
feeling it.
like you were struggling to maintain interest.
I don't know. It just, I don't know. Like, I'm not into like the whole death.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
weird, the gothicness, I don't know. I'm not
even though
into
this
that
movie is kind of a
stuff.
goofy take on it.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, it's there's obviously, much more darker, almost evil kind of movies like that. But like, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really feel it. I'm gonna have to say an F. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
I just,
that
it didn't do it for
harsh.
me. Sorry, man. When you got to lay it down. You got to lay it down hard.
All right. Well, this
what?
might be the first time in the history of the Escape podcast where you and I have been so far off from each other in final grade.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay. Well,
indeed. Before we leave, don't forget you can find us on Instagram at what, Dave?
The Escape Podcast 16.
Hashtag the Escape Podcast 16.
Yes.
You
Throw
can
that
email us
hashtag
at
on there.
Yeah. You can email us at escapepodcast16@gmail.com. And of course, Dave, where can they find us?
They can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podomatic, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, and YouTube.
1,000 others. I did get a message recently from someone asking, why is there only 3 episodes on all those things?
What? I didn't know you got a message from someone.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
So basically, if anyone cares or wonders what's going on with that, when we first started, I paid for the premium package with Podomatic so we could fit all our episodes on it.
Right.
After the first year, we weren't really getting any, and we're still not getting any feedback really from anybody. So I decided, what, I'm not paying again for that premium membership. So with the free membership, we can fit about 7 or 8 episodes.
Right.
So
if
you want to listen. What?
I was going to say, so we've designated our YouTube channel to be like an archive with all episodes because that's free. But
unfortunately, since there's so many podcasts out there called the Escape Podcast or some variation of that, in order to find us, or at least find us easily, on YouTube, you have to search the Escape Podcast movie reviews and nonsense, which I know that's nonsense that you have to search such a long thing.
Nonsense.
But yeah, you can do that. So old episodes are on YouTube. All the newer things are on all the other things, whatever, blah, 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 this and that. But nobody cares.
This, that, and the other
No
thing.
one's listening. So anyway, thanks if you did. We'll catch you in about 5 months when we release the next episode.
Catch you on the flip side.
Yeah.
Something like that.
What he said. Good night and happy Halloween.
Gute Nacht.
All right, ready for him to cut it?
Sure. Go ahead. Because I have
seen this, but it's probably been like 15. I hear a ton of background noise. I don't know what I'm hearing, but I'm hearing a bunch of stuff
happening.
What is that?
It's the kids playing upstairs.